So now that we can make one choice, the next logical step is figure out how we can make two choices within our program. So we're either going to go left or we're going to go right. So looking at the diagram we see here, the program is going to flow down, it's going to make a decision, and if that decision is true, it's going to go on the right side. If that decision's false, it's going to go on the left side. Continue on, and then eventually end up back in the program itself. So in order to do this, all we're going to do is we're going to expand on our idea of a simple if statement, just a simple if statement, to call an if-else statement. So an if-else statement, very similar, if-else, is going to allow us to do one way or the other. So down in our program here, our example, all I'm going to do is expand upon this. The if is not going to change. We're just going to add to it. We're going to add this else clause. And this is, autocorrect. This else clause is going to be code that executes when test condition evaluates to false. So here's the rule. If it evaluates to true, if test condition evaluates to true, it's going to come in, it's going to execute the code inside the if statement, then skip the else code. However, if test condition is false, it won't go into the if statement, but then it will be forced to go into the else statement. Think of the else statement as your safety net. It's like the catch-all. It's everything else that wasn't already tested. So in our previous example in Eclipse, we were testing to see if hour is less than 18. Well, what's the opposite of less than 18? Anything that's greater than or equal to 18. That's what else is actually covering. But we don't actually explicitly need to state the comparison. It just is implied. So it's just whatever hasn't been tested. Basically, if the test above fails, go in and execute the code inside the else code. That's our safety net. It's very useful and allows us to kind of make sure that we don't make any mistakes and we don't miss anything, because that is a common thing when you're dealing with a lot of possible options, as you'll see in the upcoming modules. So let's go into our program and see how we can actually show this and demonstrate it. So we have our basic if statement here. I'm going to put this back to the way it was, which was 23. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an else greeting. Else, inside of here, we're going to assign greeting, the value of good evening. Now I want you to think of the logic of this, because what we're saying here is anything less than 6 p.m. is considered good day. Anything 6 p.m. or after, which is the else code, greater than or equal to 18, we're setting the greeting to good evening. So now when we run our program, again we have the breakpoint still there, so I'm going to continue with that. Right. We're going to continue with this. We're going to run our program. It's going to stop on that point, and we're going to step through it one line of code with the F6 key. It assigns hour the value of 23, assigns greeting the value of high. Now it's going to test. Is 23 less than 18? No, it's not. So it's going to skip that if code and go automatically into the else code. It doesn't even do a test, doesn't even do a comparison. It just goes in, because else means anything else, whatever's left over. So it's going to assign greeting to good evening, as we'll see in the variables tab up at top. And then it's going to display our result, and we get good evening. Good. So one thing that you need to realize is that it's only ever going to execute one of these statements. It's either going to execute the if statement or it's going to execute the else statement. Think of that train going down the tracks. It has to go left or right. It can't backtrack and then go down the other path. It doesn't work like that. It has to keep going forward. Just keep going forward. So let's change the value of hour back to 6 a.m. again and run it one more time. And we're going to step through with the F6 key. Our variables are set up, and then now we're doing our test comparison. Is 6 a.m. less than 6 p.m.? So is 6 less than 18? Yes, it is. So it's going to go in. It's going to execute that one command that we have inside there. If we had more, it would execute all of them. But now watch as it skips the else code and immediately goes to the print line command. We see that way at the bottom. Good day has been assigned up at the top. And now if we finish our program, we see good day at the very end. So we have all of our if code, we have our else code, and together now we have the capability of doing two choices. Now this is great. but it's not fully functional yet. We still have some more to add to this to give us a little bit more flexibility as programmers. In the upcoming modules, we're going to see how we can make a lot more choice.